Hey guys, how's it going? Time for coffee. I'm a little chilly. I actually kind of think I should go get a sweatshirt. I'll be right back. Hi. It's a little chilly. I don't know why I didn't put one on before. But here we are. Hey, Becca. Oh, shoot. Okay. Here we go. What? What? Oh my God. All the cups that I like to have, for my coffee in the morning are dirty. All of them. How is that possible? What? Oh my God. Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to use a secret husband cup because my cups are dirty. Travesty. Full on travesty. How am I supposed to live this way? I have an avalanche that works, yes. It is a big loss. Hey, Jody. How's it going? Jumping on for a new book day. Today is a new book, you guys. New day, new book. New day, new book. How's everyone doing? Did anyone get a surprise day off because of the outage? Yes, no spoilers at all. No spoilers are allowed. No, don't do spoilers here. Today's restock day for anyone who didn't know. You know, obviously we all know that I made the mistake of thinking that this book that we're reading was, Morning Jen, a Chris Hoffer autobiography, but you have to admit, Stranger Than Fan Fiction would be a great title for the autobiography of someone who's had a life like Chris Hoffer's, right? I mean, like, you have to admit, it's a great title for that. I know that's not what it is now, I know we figured it out, but like, it would have been a great title for that. Calm down. Why are you being so loud this morning? You need to tone it down. It's early. Getting back to normal self then. That's always good. My legs are cold. Why is it so cold today? What is happening? It's freaking July. Who said it was allowed to be cold in July? Not me. Not me. I did not approve this message. Did not approve this message. So yeah, we're gonna read, and then we're gonna have, obviously, you know, what are we gonna have? We're gonna have yeah, it was medium warm yesterday. I wouldn't say it was super warm yesterday, but it was medium warm yesterday. Yeah. It was as warm as it's gotten this summer. Got up to 76. I thought it was going to get higher. It didn't really. So 76 was the top yesterday, I think. Like when we went to the show, I had to wear a jacket just to walk from the car. In my older age, I realized I'm more comfortable being colder than too warm. Really? I need to be a little warm. Hey, Avery. I need to be at least a little warm. I don't need to be so warm, but, you know, a little warm is good. I'd rather be cold and bundle up. The show was great. The show was great, yeah. We had a great time. They are going to San Diego, Anya, right after this, so if you are interested, I would definitely grab tickets. It's a lot of fun. I prefer sweaty warm. Yeah, I don't really get super sweaty very much. I'm not a sweaty person by nature. It takes like a lot. I have to be really nervous to actually be sweaty, which I know is kind of weird. But like, even if it's cold at the doctor's office, I get a little sweaty at the doctor's office because I hate going, or like the dentist or whatever. But hey, Amanda, it doesn't have anything to do with temperature. It has everything to do with comfort of mentality. Oh no, my gloves. My dishwashing gloves fell in the sink. Now there's gonna be water inside the sleeve. Ah, beans. Not great. Not great. All right, so let's do this. Ooh. Cold chair. Cold chair. Today we are going to be reading from my Kindle rather than a physical book, which is unusual for us, but you know, gotta go over to the TBR. Where's my, okay, TBR, Stranger Than Fan Fiction, download, what, download, what, open. We may have to pause for a second because it's doing a weird thing. Give me 2 shakes of a second. I will be right back. Roxy, if you think you're gonna spoil, just don't say anything. We don't accept spoilers of any kind in our book club, so we can't say I'll try my best not to spoil. You have to say like, I will not spoil, or unfortunately we won't be able to have you say anything, because spoilers are the one thing that I cannot abide by in anything that is like, we do not do spoilers, because that's the whole point of everyone reading it together, is that there's no spoilers. So you're obviously welcome to stay, but you won't be able to type anything if you think you're going to make a spoiler. We can't have that for anybody else, because the rest of us haven't read anything yet. So if you've read the book already and you want to stay, that's great, but we gotta zip our lips. Spoiler, we can't have that for anybody else, because the rest of us haven't read anything yet. So if you've read the book already and you want to stay, that's great, but we gotta zip our lips. I think that worked. It's downloading now, so we're good. Okay, good. It's downloading, which is what we wanted. Have to move it to currently reading, because I have little collections in my Kindle. I have everything all organized or whatever. Okay, so we are going to start from the beginning, even though we read like 1 page before because we were confused. We're going to start all over again, so everyone is on the same page. We are starting with chapter 1, and it is called Convention Intervention. It wasn't WizCon unless somebody was trampled. Wait, we're gonna read it last time. It didn't stay downloaded. No, because it's from the library, Naisa, so I had to recheck it out when we were ready for it again. I keep all my books in jail by never connecting to Wi-Fi, so I can't download. That's funny.
It wasn't WizCon unless someone was trampled. At least that's how the employees of the Santa Clara Convention Center saw it. The success of the annual event was never measured by the number of attendees, sold-out crowds were always a given, but by the number of injuries the enthusiastic crowd inflicted on one another. Thankfully, the WizCon incidents were never malicious. The patrons simply buzzed with so much excitement that they became a danger to themselves and others around them. So, the more reported accidents, the more the event planners were confident that they had done their job. As the early comers outside pressed their bodies against the glass door, rabid with anticipation, the convention staff knew that WizCon 2017 was about to break new records. "It's 12:01, said a little boy dressed as a gray alien. "You were supposed to open at noon?" "Come on, we have been waiting for hours," an old woman in a headdress of Marie Antoinette said. "Some of us have been here since yesterday," a very sleepy teenage girl from a group wearing dinosaur onesies. That would have been me. The convention center was surrounded with a massive gathering of historical figures, extinct species, and extraterrestrial creatures. It was an alarming sight to everyone passing by, and it was much more innocent than the psychedelic cult that it appeared to be. All these people were at WizCon because they were fans of the hit television series Whiz Kids. The show was an action/adventure series that followed a trio of young geniuses who traveled through space and time in an invention that they constructed out of a porta potty. Naturally, when it first premiered, the critics treated the show like a piñata. Each review of the ridiculous premise was more scathing than the last. Reviewers took great pleasure in ripping it to shreds and even became competitive with their convictions, each claiming to have hated it the most. However, with each fatal blow, Whiz Kids received more and more attention. People tuned in to see the absurdity for themselves, but they were not as repulsed as promised. Audiences found the show's campiness to be rather charming. Its unique underdog spirit resonated with them, and a global phenomenon was born. Now, it wasn't Shakespeare, but on the bright side, it wasn't Shakespeare. Seemingly overnight, the cast of young teens became household names. Their likenesses were plastered across t-shirts, lunchboxes, bedsheets, and various hygiene products, and their personal lives became the subject of tabloid debates. 9 seasons later, the Whiz Kids viewership was larger and more passionate than ever. The self-proclaimed whizzers dominated the internet with more hashtags, trending topics, discussion forums, and fan fiction than any other show on the air. And like a religious pilgrimage, every 4th weekend in June, whizzers from around the world traveled to Santa Clarita, California for the sacred Whiz Kids convention to celebrate the show together. "It's 12:05, said the mother of triplets dressed as Roman soldiers. "Please open the doors already." "Oh, it's Becca." Can we please dress the triplets as Roman soldiers? That would be amazing. She just wants to go inside. She doesn't care what's going. Just get them inside. "Let us in. It's hot out here," said a man dressed from head to toe as a Martian slug. "My mustache is melting off," shouted a little girl dressed as Edgar Allan Poe, or so people hoped. Finally, at 12:10, the doors opened and a stampede of alien creatures, deceased world influencers, and large reptiles stormed inside the convention center. WizCon 2017 had begun. Security guards cautiously ushered the excited crowd like they were herding a flock of explosive sheep. Medics stood by with their gurneys ready, and the other convention center employees made bets on which guests were most likely to snap. The first whizzers through the door made a mad dash to the convention center theater, where the Whiz Kid cast and creative panel was happening later that afternoon. Only the first 600 people were gonna have seats, and the poor other saps would have to watch the telecast from the exhibition hall. Desperate to see their favorite actors in the flesh, the teenagers in the crowd charged through the halls, knocking over booths of overpriced merchandise and unsuspecting senior citizens in their path. They squeezed through the narrow doors of the theater and threw themselves into the first available seats that they could find. Within minutes, all the seats were filled with giddy young people. Pitying looks were cast upon the unfortunate souls without seats, as if they were third-class passengers on the Titanic. Not a single whizzer could sit still as they waited for the panel to start. The entire theater jerked and twitched like everyone had to pee so badly that it hurt. The anticipation was suffocating, and someone had to breathe into a paper bag to keep from passing out. But honestly, who could blame them? This was it. The panel that they had been waiting for all year was just a few agonizing minutes away. Their eyes darted back and forth across the stage as they wondered which wing their heroes would enter from. A table was set on the stage with 4 chairs, 4 microphones, and 4 nameplates. The crowd squealed like hyenas as they read the names of the cast and the creator of WizKids, especially the nameplate of Cash Carter, the lead actor of the show. Without a doubt, the Wizards were more excited to see Cash Carter than anyone else on the panel, and if they weren't in costume, almost everyone in the theater wore a t-shirt with a picture of his character, Dr. Webster Bumfumble. Sorry, I didn't see that coming. Dr. Webster Bumfuzzle. Okay, well. The doctor was famous for his thick glasses, green bow tie, and blue laboratory coat. The Wizards whispered among themselves as they speculated what Cash Carter was doing at that exact moment, and it was as if he were as excited about the panel as they were. From the green room backstage, the commotion in the theater sounded like the rumblings of a distant storm. Cash Carter found serenity in the bathroom, where the crowd was drowned out entirely by the hum of the fluorescent lights. He stood in front of the mirror with his eyes closed, enjoying the quiet while he still could. Cash was not a jealous person, but he envied people with quiet. Only in absolute silence could he simply exist and be reminded of who and what he was, or, according to his critics, who and what he wasn't. But finding a space that wasn't dominated by the commotion of a television set, the rapid clicks of paparazzi cameras, or the murmuring of a hungry crowd was very rare. The bathroom may have cracked tile walls, peculiar stains on the ceiling, and a terrible musky smell, but someone definitely had been, someone had definitely been murdered there in the past, but to Cash, this was a sanctuary. His tranquility was interrupted by a knock on the door. Excuse me, Mr. Carter, an underpaid stagehand said. Are you still in there? Because we're hoping to start the panel in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes? I thought we weren't starting until 2, Cash replied. Well, sir, it is 2, the stagehand said. Cash had been in the bathroom for over an hour without even realizing it. He opened his baggy, bloodshot eyes and stared at his reflection. The 22-year-old actor was thin, unshaven, and sported messy hair. He wore a black blazer over the t-shirt he'd fallen asleep in the night before, and a strong cologne to mask the fact that he hadn't showered in 2 days. Is everything okay? The stagehand asked. You've been in there for a while. Yeah, I'm fine, Carter mumbled. I just lost track of time. They can start the intro panel, and I'll be out in 5 minutes. Actually, the producers wanted to have a word with the cast before the panel begins, the stagehand said. Ugh, Cash grunted. Well, in that case, I'll be out in 10. The stagehand let out a deep sigh. All right, copy that, he said, and then clicked a button on his headset. He says he'll be out in 10. Yeah, I know we're already running behind. Let the crowd know we'll be starting closer to 2:30. No, calm down, Gary. This is WizCon, not the Oscars. The stagehand walked down the hall in a huff, granting Cash a few more minutes of space. A rush of nerves swept through Cash's core like a flock of bats. Even after 9 years of conventions, he always got anxious before appearing in front of an audience. Call him crazy, but there was something about walking into a room of screaming, applauding, and crying strangers that Cash just couldn't get used to. Although he never took the Wizards' affection for granted, it was a lot of pressure being their source of so much happiness. With one slip of the tongue, he could emotionally scar a generation of young people for the rest of their lives and trigger a wave of resentment for the rest of his. Being beloved was fucking tough. Luckily for him, these days, Cash had a little help to take the edge off. He reached into his pocket and pulled out 3 large pills and 2 marijuana gummy bears. Did not know that this is where this was going. He swallowed the pills and chewed the gummies and chased them with a sip from his flask tucked into his blazer. Sure, it wasn't exactly the healthiest combination, but the goodies always worked faster when they were taken together. Cash closed his eyes again and took a deep breath and waited for his secret weapons to do their magic. A moment later, there was a knock at the door. Mr. Carter, the stagehand said, "It's been 15 minutes. Are you ready?" Poor time management was a side effect of Cash's special treats, but his anxiety was completely gone. In fact, Cash could barely feel anything at all. Everything felt light and easy all around him, as if he were drifting through the clouds in a hot air balloon. Only when he opened his dilated eyes and looked around was he reminded that he was in a bathroom at all. His pre-convention cocktail had done the trick. "Mr. Carter, did you hear me?" the stagehand asked, growing more impatient by the millisecond. Cash giggled. There was something so funny about being called Mr. Carter by someone almost twice his age. "Yeah, I heard you," he said. "Showtime." Cash begrudgingly left his porcelain sanctuary and followed the stagehand down the hall. The green room was more crowded than he thought it would be. 7 people were seated with their chairs facing him, and in Cash's delayed state, it took him a couple moments to even recognize them. Damian Zimmer, the creator of WizKids, was seated in the middle of the show's executive producer, Jim Kaufman, and to their right was Cash's castmate, the beautiful Amy Evans and the hunky Toby Ramos. Oh, we've been restricted because of the things that I mentioned. They heard the word marijuana and they restricted our lives as if we're not reading a book. Whatever. Guys, this is a book written by the star of Glee. Go ahead. Yes, on TikTok, the most dangerous thing that anyone has ever said is marijuana. That's the most dangerous thing that anyone has ever said on TikTok. This is a dangerous live, you guys. Be careful. Be careful here. Amy Evans and the hunky Toby Ramos. To Damien and Jim's left were 2 middle-aged men and 1 woman, each wearing a designer suit. Cash knew that they were executives from the network, but since executives were fired and hired so frequently, he didn't know their names. "Well, this is a surprise," Cash said. "Would you give us a minute?" Jim asked the stagehand. The overworked man was desperate to get things started, but he gave them some space. "Sit down, Cash," Damien said and nodded to the empty chair. Okay, Cash said and took a seat. All of them stared at him with a stern expression, except for his co-stars. They were looking down at the social media on their phones. Cash could tell that they were all pissed at him for something much worse than taking his time in the bathroom. Perhaps he said something uncouth in an interview or forgot to live tweet a rerun? "So," Cash said, "what's up?" "Before we begin, it's important that you know we're all here because we care about you," Jim said. "Yeah, duh, it's WizCon," Cash said. "Everyone's here because they care about me." The remark inspired several eye rolls and exhalations, but Cash wasn't trying to be a smartass. On the contrary, 3 painkillers, 2 edibles, and a shot of whiskey, he was too numb to be anything but literal. "This is serious, Cash," the woman executive said. "This isn't going to be a pleasant conversation, but it's a necessary one before things get out of hand." "Out of hand?" Cash asked. "What the hell are you talking about?" Everyone passed the responsibility of leading the conversation to the next person until it landed in Damien's lap like a heavy stack of books he did not want to read. "Well, things have been rocky between us, so I'm probably not the best messenger for this," Damien said with a dramatic sigh. "Ever since we wrapped season 9 and went on hiatus, you've been totally out of control. At first, we thought it was just a phase. After 2 months of utter nonsense, we're afraid that it's gotten much worse. We've all cleared our schedules so we could be here today and address your recent behavior." Damien was right. He wasn't the right messenger for this. In fact, he was the last person on Earth that Cash would listen to about behavior. At just 35 years old, Damien Zimmer had the ego and entitlement of all of Hollywood's worst cliches put together. He began his career as a child actor on a cheesy sitcom called Who's the Parent?, which was more memorable for its obnoxious laugh track than its writing. When Damien was in his mid-20s, he developed WizKids as a starring vehicle for himself. The network purchased the show but thought Damien was too old and forced him to cast younger actors. Even though WizKids became a huge hit and made him filthy rich, Damien had always despised Cash for stealing his part and the spotlight that came with it. It's possible Becca could be inspired by his experience on Glee. I'm not sure. Maybe inspired by some of the people in his cast that did have substance abuse issues. I don't think Chris himself ever admitted to having it. I don't know if he ever did, but it's possible, yeah. Hold up, Cash said. Is this an intervention? Right before a convention? Damn right it is, Damien said, and I believe it's more than warranted. You've been seen getting wasted at clubs all over town, getting high in public places, speeding down Sunset Boulevard with hookers in the backseat of your Lamborghini, and the LAPD are at your house every other night to shut down a ridiculous party. First off, those were strippers, and I drive a Maserati, Cash clarified. And it's not like throwing parties and getting drunk is against the law. No, but child endangerment is, Damien went on. You're lucky you weren't charged after taking the Boys and Girls Club America skydiving or those poor kids from Make-A-Wish to the shooting range. You were also aware that you got caught trespassing, Jim added. Someone filmed you climbing the elephant statue at the La Brea tar pits, naked, while screaming, "I'm the king of the mammoths." You have no idea how much damage control the network publicists went into to keep that off the internet. Cash giggled. Yeah, I admit, that was pretty legendary. He said, by the way, can I get a copy of that? I lost my phone that night, and it might show where I dropped it. His request was denied with a passive-aggressive silence. I believe that you've entered a downward spiral of selfishness, stupidity, and self-destruction, Damien said. You're ruining your reputation and jeopardizing the viewership of the show in the process. Even though we're not currently filming, you're still a representative of the networks, this studio, and my production company. Damien recited the rant like a Shakespearean soliloquy, but Cash's eyes drifted away from him. His attention was completely captivated by Amy, who had started taking selfies with her phone. Cash couldn't think of anything more inappropriate to do in the middle of an intervention. It was like ordering a pizza in the middle of a funeral. And then again, he wasn't surprised. Amy's narcissism had always fascinated him. Once, when they were on set, Cash accidentally saw inside Amy's photo album when he confused her phone for his. Every picture was a different selfie with the same exact pose and her favorite expression, sultry surprise. He scrolled for miles, but never found a single picture of friends or family. It was all just Amy. Sometimes he worried that Amy wasn't actually Amy at all, but Amy's stalker wearing a suit made out of her skin. Yeah, I think you're right, Jen. I think we all know who Amy is. I don't think it's gonna take rocket scientists to figure out which character Amy is. Did I show you guys, not to derail everything, but did I show you guys my wicked bruise from yesterday? Look at this. Look at this bruise that I gave myself yesterday. That's fun, right? I did that mailing orders to you all at the post office. That is a post office bruise. Yes, in case anyone was wondering what I go through to get your packages to you, that was from the post office. Yeah, Secret Husband was like, I'm never letting you go to the post office alone again. Yes, iron is still low. Ross bruise is like a peach. Yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt what we're reading, but I was trying to get the packages in the maily thing, and I did the slime packages beat you up? No, the loading dock did. The loading dock beat me up. Not the packages, just the dock. It's metal and very hard, I found. When you try to jump up on it and you miss, very bad. Bad, bad, not good. Cash, are you even listening to me? Damien asked, leaning forward to take a closer look at him. Wait, are you stoned? Not enough for this conversation, Cash muttered under his breath. This got a serious rise out of his coworkers, especially Toby Ramos, who was so annoyed that he threw his phone aside. This is going nowhere, Toby said. He doesn't give a shit about anything we're telling him. I'm supposed to be back in Los Angeles tonight for a night shoot. How much longer is this going to take anyway? Toby, or Roids McRage, as Cash called him behind his back, was referring to the set of Mothman, the multi-million-dollar comic book movie that he was starring in. He had bulked up so much for the part, and so quickly it was a miracle he could even tie his own shoes. Mothman was an opportunity every actor dreamed of, and Toby was using his entire hiatus from WizKids to shoot it. Still, Cash found it very ironic that Toby spent 8 hours a week dressed as a giant insect and somehow thought his time was more valuable than anyone else's. Oh, I wonder if I can make people mods now. I don't even know. Nope, still don't have that ability. That's weird. Maybe after this live, I'll get the ability? I don't know. It's weird. I know how to do it on the other one. It's weird. Allow me to wrap things up, Cash said. I understand my behavior has raised a few eyebrows, but after 9 seasons of playing by the rules, always saying and doing the right thing, and never rocking the boat, I think I've earned the right to have a little fun. Come on, guys. I've been doing the show since I was 12 years old. You're only young once, and I just want to be young while I still can. If the looks being exchanged were any indication, there wasn't an ounce of sympathy for him. No one gave an F about his desire to be young. Unfortunately, your definition of youth is a breach of contract, one of the male executives said. You and your representation agreed to the studio's morality clause when you were hired, and then again during renegotiations in the 6th season. If your behavior doesn't change, we will be forced to take legal action. It was a very serious threat, but instead of trembling where he sat, Cash only laughed. You can only sue me if I'm still under contract, he said, and at the rate I'm going, I'll doubt you'll be able to employ me much longer. So that's what this is really all about, Amy said. You're trying to get yourself fired? That's pathetic. Dude, you are an effing idiot, Toby said. If you get fired from the show, you'll never work again, and the fans will hate you. Cash was overwhelmed by the love and support coming from his co-stars. They were nailing this whole intervention thing. He was totally inspired to change his ways so their lives would be easier. All right, everyone calm down, Jim said. No one is getting fired. We're here to help Cash, not scold him or accuse him of anything. They were obviously on different pages about the matter because Damien was giving Cash the most scornful look to date. Not once in 9 years had he ever turned down an opportunity to scold Cash. I feel sorry for you, Cash, Damien said. You're not mature enough to understand how lucky you are. There are millions of people in this world who would kill to be sitting where you are. And like it or not, you're the lead actor of a network's highest rated show. They'd sue you for everything you've got before they'd fire you. So you're going to fulfill your contractual obligations and you're going to do it on your best behavior. I'd make peace with that if I were you. Cash didn't know if he should be appalled or applaud him. Damien gave his best performances when he was ticked off. However, his allegations couldn't be further from the truth. Immaturity and ingratitude were languages that Damien spoke, not Cash. The truth was, Cash had made peace with reality. He had made more peace than anyone else in the room could possibly understand. There's more than one way to get out of a contract, Cash said. A wide grin spread across his face. No matter how much they tried to scare him, Cash knew that he wasn't returning for the next season of the show. There was something he wasn't telling them, something he would have loved to confess to prove them all wrong, but he had to be strategic about it. A better time would present itself. I'm not sure, Naisa. I don't think it's romance. I think it's just like action adventure maybe, or I'm really not sure. I didn't look at the genre. I just saw Chris Coffer's name and got it. I assumed we didn't care what he was writing. We were just going to read anything he wrote. The stagehand re-entered the room very awkwardly, as if he were walking in on his elderly parents having sex. Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, he said. We told the crowd that we were starting at 2:30 and it's now 2:45. Are we close, or should we tell them that we've pushed it to 3? We'll put a pin in this conversation until we have time to finish it, Jim said. We've brought our concerns to Cash, and now it's his job to take them to heart. But let me reiterate, no one is getting fired, no one is leaving the show, and we're here to talk about the upcoming season. Nothing else. Now, let's go make the best of it, make the fans happy. None of us would have a job without them. No one objected. Everyone was relieved and the conversation was finally over, especially Amy and Toby. The meeting seemed to have taken a toll on them more than it had on Cash. He almost offered them some of the treats in his pocket, but he thought it was probably tacky to offer drugs right after an intervention. Jim and the executives left the green room to watch the panel from the audience. The stagehand escorted Damien, Toby, Amy, and Cash out to the stage and had them waiting behind the curtain. All right, when they call your name, step through the curtain and take your seat at the table, the stagehand instructed. Oh, is that how this works? Toby said and did an impression of someone with special needs. Yeah, it's not like we've never done this before, Amy said and took another selfie. Cash chuckled, but not at his co-stars. He thought it was funny how they were he thought it was funny how there was hydrocone, weed, and alcohol flowing through his veins at a work event, but he still wasn't the biggest douchebag on stage. Sorry, they make me remind you every year, the stagehand said and clicked the button on his headset. We're ready back here. Cue the introduction. An energetic announcer was blasted over the audio system and filled the theater like the voice of God. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, extraterrestrials and reptiles and insectoids, people from the past, present, future, wizards from around the world, welcome to 2017 WizKids Cast and Creative Panel! The audience went berserk. If the energy emitting from their bodies could have been absorbed, it would power all the homes in Central America for a decade. Please welcome the former star of Who's the Parent and creator of WizKids, Damien Zer! The words former star seemed to have sent a sharp pain down Damien's spine because he twitched uncomfortably. He stepped through the curtain and bowed before the audience. The wizards greeted him with warm applause, but mostly tried to look past him to see the cast standing backstage. You know him as the goofy anthropologist, Professor Fitz Luckungle. Please welcome to the stage the man who puts buff in history buff, the star of the upcoming movie Mothman, Toby Ramos. Toby leapt through the curtain like a bull released from its pen. His silhouette darted around the curtain as he ran around the stage, doing backflips and flexing his muscles for the crowd. Toby was so amped up that an elephant tranquilizer wouldn't have calmed him down. You know her as the mechanical engineer with the heart of gold, Dr. Jules, the Tools, Peachtree. Please welcome the actress turned supermodel and outspoken pescatarian, the gorgeous, the talented Amy Evans! Amy glided through the curtain like she was on a catwalk. She blew kisses and made heart shapes with her hands and then took an on-stage selfie. But oddly, she didn't include the audience in it. Last, but certainly not least, you know him as the lovable and nerdy and quirky quantum physics expert, Dr. Webster Bumfuzzle. Please give a warm WizCon welcome to the one and only Cash Carter! Before the announcer was finished, the audience was screaming so loud that Cash could barely hear his cue to come out. He stepped on stage and was hit with a tsunami of affection. The audience roared twice as hard as they had for the others. The stage lights made it very difficult to see anything, and a tardy spotlight practically blinded him. All Cash could see was the manic flashing of cameras in the audience as if they were facing an endless, pulsating galaxy. When his eyes finally adjusted, he saw the wizards shaking, crying, jumping hysterically throughout the theater. He politely waved at the crowd, only causing the commotion to magnify. Cash found his seat at the table beside his co-workers, but the audience continued cheering until their voices went hoarse. Oh yeah, Microsoft, no good. I can't get over the character names are all ridiculous, Avery. And please welcome the panel moderators. From Entertainment Weekly, we have Jennifer Smalls. From The Hollywood Reporter, Terrence Wilhelm. And from YouTube, personality Kylie Trigg. Lights came up on the front row of the audience where the moderators sat. Each had a handheld microphone and a WizKids notepad with their questions on it. We will start the panel with Jennifer Smalls, the announcer said. Thanks for having me, WizCon, Jennifer Smalls said into her microphone. First off, it's so wonderful to be back at WizCon. If there's one thing the cast of WizCon agreed on, it was that Jennifer Smalls was Satan in black leggings. Before she reported for Entertainment Weekly, Jennifer worked on a website called Gotcha, a gossip blog devoted to outing the closeted gay actors, breaking up celebrity couples, starting pregnancy rumors, leaking nude photos, and making life as difficult as possible for anyone in the public eye. When Cash bought his first home, Jennifer Smalls posted his address online, which was practically an invitation for the paparazzi. Hollywood tour buses and 5 very delusional people who refused to leave. It cost Cash hundreds of thousands of dollars to hire full-time security for his property and to expedite restraining orders. Needless to say, he wasn't Jennifer Smalls' biggest fan. The only reason that she was even invited to WizCon was because in 2004 she wrote an article claiming that Damian Zimmer was robbed of Supporting Actor Emmy for nomination in Who's the Parent. "You are always welcome, Jennifer," Damian said into his microphone. "My question is for Cash," she said. "We've noticed that there's more and more stunt work each season, and I was wondering what it's like to film episode 908, Atlantis Falling." "It was wet," Cash replied, and that was all she got. His shortness was not just a tactic for Jennifer's questions, but for the convention in general. The less he spoke, the fewer pictures would surface of him mid-word. Those always made him look like he was having a stroke, and it seemed to be the only photos that publications used with their articles anymore. Luckily, the audience found his shortness very amusing, and no one was any the wiser. "All right, now we will go to Terrence Walhelm for the next question," the announcer said. The Hollywood Reporter aggressively flipped through his notes as he formed a question. He was in his late 60s and was one of the most feared television critics in Los Angeles. Terrence was infamous for finding something to dislike in everything he watched. He said Game of Thrones was too soft, Downton Abbey was juvenile, and The Big Bang Theory was an insult to intelligent people. Judging by the irritated look on Terrence's face, he would have rather been having a colonoscopy with no anesthesia than be sitting at WizCon among the wizards. "My question is for Mr. Zimmer," Terrence said. "With all due respect, this show is all over the place. In the same episode, your characters were swimming in the rivers of ancient Mesopotamia during one scene and hiking through the craters of Mars in the next. What exactly inspired you to create this show?" "Well, I've always been a huge fan of science fiction and history, and no one had intertwined them yet, at least as well as I thought I could," Damian said, and he ran his fingers through his hair. "Originally, I wrote it for myself to star in, but once I began developing this with the studio, I decided that the part just wasn't right for me. I told them it would be better for the show if I stayed off camera and put all my creativity into the writer's room." "Right," Terrence said, made note of it. So far, the creative side of his panel wasn't impressing him. "All right, for our next question, we will be going to Kylie Trigg," the announcer said. The audience cheered for YouTube personality Kylie Trigg as if she were an actor in the show herself. Kylie stood and waved to her admirers like a pageant contestant. She was in her late teens and had bright blue hair and wore cat-eye glasses and a rainbow tutu. Even before she opened her mouth, she was a lot to take in. "Hello, wizards," Kylie said into her microphone with the energy of a coked-out toddler. "It's so good to be back at WizCon." It wasn't that long ago that Kylie was just another WizKids superfan, following the cast from airport to airport, hotel to hotel, as they traveled the country on press tours. Kylie started vlogging about her brief encounters with them, stretching the truth from time to time, and developed a following of her own. The show gained an audience, and so did Kylie's videos. Today she was one of YouTube's most watched personalities and had become the New York Times best-selling author when HarperCollins published her debut memoir, Confessions of a Fangirl, a Wizard Love Story. According to Forbes magazine, Kylie Trigg was now worth more money than the whole cast put together. Interestingly enough, the success of WizKids went to Kylie's head more than it went to the head of anyone attached to the show. The girl who used to wait outside in the rain for hours just to catch a glimpse of Cash, Amy, or Toby would now only go to WizKid events if she was getting paid 6 figures and flown in private. In Cash's opinion, Kylie Trigg was the American dream for a new generation. My first question is for Cash and Amy," Kylie said. "What is the face of Peach Fuzzle? The fate of Peach Fuzzle. And do you guys love Peach Fuzzle as much as the Peach Fuzzlers?" Cash stared at Kylie like she was speaking another language, but he consciously kept his emoting to a minimum so that his face wouldn't be turned into another obnoxious meme later. "Huh?" Cash asked. What is a Peach Fuzzler?" Kylie playfully rolled her eyes as if he asked her if blue was her natural color. "The shippers who ship Dr. Peachtree and Dr. Bumfuzzle," she said. "I'm sure you've seen the hashtags." "I thought they called themselves Bumtrees," Cash said. "Oh, no," Kylie shook her head. "We changed it." Terrence Wallen looked from side to side in a daze. He had no clue what the hell anyone was talking about. Whatever the Peach Fuzzlers or Bumtrees were, they couldn't be appropriate for the children in the audience. Cash and I couldn't be more thrilled. So many people care so deeply about the relationship between our characters, Amy said, desperate to say something before the panel was over. So will they be on or off next season? Kylie asked. Cash? This was a very tricky question, especially since Cash didn't have an answer. The shippers were the most passionate group of whiz kids in all of the fandom. If Cash said something they liked, his social media would be flooded with pictures, videos, and gifs of Dr. Bumfuzzle and Dr. Peachtree kissing or looking lovingly at one another. If he responded with something they didn't like, his social media would be bombarded with pictures, videos, and gifs of decapitated animals, human feces, and militants destroying priceless artifacts. He had to be careful. Well, they've been on and off since season 5, Cash said with a nervous quiver in his voice. So, since they were mostly off next season, I would assume that they'll be on next season. His answer was music to the Peach Puzzlers' ears. The shippers throughout the audience stood and applauded. It was an emotional moment of triumph for them, as if the football team from their hometown had just won the Super Bowl. All right, for the next question, we will go back to Jennifer Smalls, the announcer said. Jennifer leaned back in her seat, retracting her head like a snake about to strike. Cash mentally braced himself for the venom coming his way. My next question is also for Cash, Jennifer said. Over the last few weeks, I've gotten hundreds of tweets from people saying that they've seen you stumbling out of bars or dancing erratically in clubs. Has the stress of Hollywood finally caught up to you? Is it true that you're hanging up your role model cape in exchange for a pair of bad boy boots? The entire convention went dead silent. Apparently, you could take the girl out of gotcha, but you couldn't take the gotcha out of the girl. To Cash's horror, Damien spoke on his behalf before he had a chance to respond. People forget that Cash is just a normal 22-year-old when he's off set, he said. As long as things don't get out of hand, he has every right to have a little fun while he's still young. Cash snapped his head toward Damien so hard it was a miracle his neck didn't break. He had never heard something so kind and so backstabbing uttered in the same breath before. Cash was tempted to splash Damien with water just to see if he would melt. Couldn't have said it better myself, Cash said. Work hard, play hard. That's my motto. All right, the next question will be from Terrence Wallum, the announcer said, trying to change the subject. Really? Oh, all right, Terrence said, and quickly thought of another question. How many more seasons will Whiz Kids be on the air? The entire theater sat on the edge of their seats, as if it were up to them, the show would never end. For most of the audience, the show had been on for the majority of their lives. For some, the show was their lives. They couldn't imagine a world without it. Losing it would be like losing a family member, maybe even worse. We'll be on the air as long as you keep watching, Toby said, and made a fist in the air. We're as dedicated to the Wizards as they are to us, Amy said and tossed her hair. For a split second, Cash considered telling the audience what he had almost shared in the green room. Finding out he wouldn't be returning for WizKids' 10th season would crush the fans, but letting the whole world know before confirming it with his bosses would have been sweet, sweet vindication. But as Cash looked around the room at all the eager faces staring up at him, he couldn't bring himself to say it. Yeah, ditto, he said and looked down at his hands. His answer was followed by a deafening roar of appreciation, but Cash was so far in his own head that he didn't even hear it. In all honesty, Cash's relationship with the fans of WizKids meant more to him than anything else in the world. Getting to do what he loved and causing so much joy in return was the greatest thing that would ever happen to him. It made all the bullshit and the challenges that came with fame worth every minute. Periodic cynicism was only a tool he used to shield the weight of meaning so much to so many people. Disappointing the Wizards was Cash's greatest fear, and he knew leaving his WizKids would devastate them. Watching all the happiness he had inspired over the years fade and turn into heartbreak and anger would devastate him in return. Sadly, though, it was inevitable. However, leaving the show wasn't what concerned him the most. The reason he was quitting was far more disappointing than the exit itself. Even though he had very little control over the matter, once the story got out, it would spread like wildfire, and his life would change forever. The inconveniences he dealt with today for being famous were nothing compared with the hurricane that waited. Cash Carter had a deep secret he was keeping from the world, and unfortunately for him, it was only a matter of time before the truth came out. Well then. Well, that was a wild ride of a morning. Chapter 1 indeed. Huh. We just got thrown a lot of stuff at us. I hope everyone processed it. I do have to skadooch because we do have restock tonight. So I will be on my other account this afternoon to do restock. If anyone has any restock questions, comment over there and I will make video responses to any of those things. And that is pretty much all. Yes, we will have capsule grab bags available tonight, which is fun. I might go live later today to fill the capsules because it's kind of silly and whatever. But anyway, I will see you all later and I hope you have a great day. Until then, bye guys.